The last time we did a Honda HR-V video, we had two of them, the new one and the older one. This time we still have two, but now we have the non-turbo and the turbo. Let's see how these two get along. Hey guys, Vince here from AutoIndustriya, and I'm here with two examples of the HR-V. This is the 1.5S non-turbo. This is the 1.5V turbo. Now, what sets the two apart? Clearly from the front, you can see a lot of differences. I mean, the color of this one is actually really nice, the light shade of blue, but the grille is different, the lower bumper is different. It also has that amp line that they have there. Honestly, I find it to be a bit gimmicky. It also has the gray wheels, or I think matte black wheels, not really matte black, but blackish wheels. But honestly, I like the look of this one better. The horizontal bars on the grille, it just looks a lot cleaner rather than this kind of dotted for your pleasure kind grille they have going on there. Doesn't have the amp line, doesn't have the extra cladding underneath, which is why the ground clearance on this one is actually a little bit better than this one, but we'll discuss that ground clearance a little bit later. But honestly, I like this one compared to this one. Technically, this is the base model, this is the high grade model, but yeah, I'd prefer to be driving this one, especially with these wheels. And even the tires are actually exactly the same, even though again, top of the line, base model. From the side, I have a feeling that Honda was going for a bit of a German influence with the HR-V, because look at it. It looks very German to me because of the lines, the character line, which is very horizontal, the way the roof line is. It's very German, very Teutonic to me, which is actually really nice. But you still see a bit of Honda flavor in here because, for example, you look at the door handle here, and then no door handle here because the door handle is up here, just like the previous generation Honda HR-V. I mean, the three-door hatchback look is very, very nice, but try getting in and out of a three-door hatchback and you will instantly hate it. I know I do. So giving you the look of the three-door hatchback, but not the inconvenience of one, is a great thing. But here's another interesting bit about this HR-V, because if you look at this line here, it's very steeply raked, I have to say. And it does compromise the rear space because you could have more volume if you went up like this one. But what Honda was really going for is a styling. Let's take a look at the back. I really like what Honda is doing with the rear end of the HR-V because look at it. It's very clean, it's very neat, and this line here, it really reminds me of the Porsche Macan. It's weird to say Porsche and Honda in the same sentence, but there you go. But when you open up the trunk or the lift gate, it really does start to make a lot more sense because, for one, they do have the tonneau cover clipped up to the tailgate, so no need to worry about that. You got a small spare there. It's a space saver spare, but that's okay. That's really it's really more of an emergency kind of thing. But what's nice here is the configuration, or the way you can reconfigure the space to your liking. As it stands right now, it's about 38 inches wide from here to there and about 30 inches deep from the rear up to this rear seat. But when you start folding things down, see here, if you notice, the rear seat of the HR-V, the cushion actually goes down to the floor, giving you a nice long space. We measured it earlier, it goes up to around 63 inches, which is really, really good. But in this one, we had it configured the other way around because the rear seats, the cushion, the lower cushion, you can actually fold up. It gives you a maximum of about 46 inches from the floor to the ceiling. So for you guys who are very, let's say, plantita, if you still are, you can get some pretty good things in there. That is what Honda really emphasizes with a lot of their 5 doors. Well, yes, 5 doors. This ULT system, which is ultra long and tall. You guys in America, you guys call this magic, I believe. Let's see what's under the hood of this car. Wingardium Leviosa. No, wrong one. Alohomora. Ha! Muggles. Now, the engine of this one is a 1.5 liter naturally aspirated i-VTEC. It's got a CVT and it's purely front wheel drive. The power is 121 PS and the torque is 145 Newton meters. Now, if you know your Honda engines, it's basically the same powertrain as the one in the Honda City. But this one is basically the same as the one in the Honda Civic because it is a 1.5 liter turbo with a CVT front wheel drive, and it has 177 horsepower and 240 Newton meters of torque. So significantly more than this one as expected. Actually, for you who have this model, you can't just put on the turbo from this into this because the engines themselves are totally different. If you look, the turbo of this one is in front, meaning the exhaust manifold is in front with the intake is in the back. This one though has the intake in front and the exhaust in the back as you would in the Honda City. That does make a big difference. It's not a simple matter of bolting on parts from this to that one to make this more powerful, but nevertheless, it's a concern amongst a lot of Honda HR-V customers because this engine seems to be too small and may even be underpowered for a body like this. Having the turbo, it does give it a big disadvantage in one important aspect, and that is minimum ground clearance. If you look under the passenger door of this one, and some of you pointed it out in the comments of the previous video, that there is a big chamber under there that is kind of, I think, the catalytic converter or maybe a pre-exhaust, whatever that is. It's quite chunky compared to the one in this one underneath the passenger door. So the ground clearance of this one minimum is, I think, 196. This one, the minimum is 181, and we measured most of that is because of that part right there. Well, let's take both out and see what it's really like. Right now, we're aboard the Honda HR-V S variant, meaning this is the non-turbo. The turbo is actually right there in the back following us because we're shooting both cars together. But in the last few days, I've spent some time in the HR-V V, the turbo version, for over the weekend, took it around. I really enjoyed it. I like the power. I like the appointments of that vehicle, and I like the ride. The only thing I did notice though, compared to this one, I mean, which is also common in this one, is that the noise suppression from the outside world isn't as great. Because even when a really loud jeepney passed me by the other day, grabe ingay sa loob. I had to check if the windows were open because that's what it sounded like to me. And right now, you can hear the tire noise really coming into the cabin. And that's something I think Honda should improve on, the NVH of the vehicle. Well, particularly the N. Whether it's hopping from one HR-V to the other or from any other car into the HR-V, it actually feels very natural. I mean, the layout is very conventional. Everything is very neatly marked. The buttons, the instrument cluster, the audio system, which is a 2-DIN unit. It's a touchscreen and really par for the course. It's not really a fantastic one. It's the same one as the one in the city. So it was never something that I found to be great, but it works. Well, except for my phone, because Android Auto doesn't seem to be working that well on my phone. Oh, and speaking of my phone, like the Honda, the other Hondas, you can actually have your phone like right there. There's a perfect ledge for it, which is great if you're charging via this port. Sorry, that's via this port, or when you're hooked up to the system via the data port right here. There's also another compartment here with a 12-volt outlet, which I find very useful for my needs. I really do like the climate control system in both vehicles, which I think they're identical because it has these knobs here. Thankfully, Honda did not go for that touch panel that they went for before, which I really hated because you end up touching it and then just changes your settings right away. This one is more tactile. It's more natural for this kind of thing. Now, the controls, yeah, nothing really different, but what's really different here is the knob on the wings of the dashboard. But it also has this kind of diffuse mode. Like right when you flick it up, it's very unusual. I've never seen that in any other vehicle in this class before, which is kind of nice if you want the air to kind of diffuse over your view. That's what you do. In this one, we're getting around 9.1 kilometers per liter, average speed of around 16 kilometers per hour. So yes, traffic. Even in the turbo, when I was driving it a couple days ago, it was averaging around 9.5 kilometers per liter, average speed of about 18. The question everyone really has about this one is whether it's underpowered. And well, you have to rev it a bit more to get the power, because again, the max torque of this comes in at around 4,000 plus RPM. So it's not going to be fantastic cruising kind of thing. You will have to rev it. It does have the power and the torque, yes, but it's way up there in the rev range. So you have to keep that in mind. But thankfully, it's lightweight. It's significantly lighter than that vehicle. Honda is really focusing on things like safety for their vehicles, which is why both of these vehicles, the full name includes Honda Sensing at the very end. So what Honda Sensing is, it's their advanced safety package, which you can use or not use depending on how you would want to drive. The most obvious feature there that would probably become very useful on the highway is the adaptive cruise control, and that's actually right here. You can also set the distance to the car ahead. Right now we're following a Kia Stonic. So we're following one of those. You can set how close you want the system or the car to be to that one, and it will adjust the speed automatically. That's actually a nice feature to have in cars, especially if you're doing long distance driving, so you don't have to mind it as much. Of course, it's not very engaging, but it is what it is. It also has the lane keep function, which right now it's not really useful because there are no lane markings here, but again, on the highway, on a long drive, it becomes very, very useful. What Honda has been focusing on for the last few years is advanced safety. And you can see it whenever you see a Honda vehicle with the name Honda Sensing attached to the end of the variant name. Yes, it becomes very long and very weird, but it is what it is. Nevertheless, you can really see that with the features of the vehicle on the steering wheel, because like for example now, you can use cruise control. Of course, we're in the city. You can use cruise control, but it's the smart kind. So first you set the speed. So right now it's at 43, so it will maintain that speed, but it's also intelligent, meaning it will sense the vehicle ahead and maintain a distance that you want or you're comfortable with to that vehicle and adjust the speed accordingly. So right now we'll set it to the closest setting, which is about right there. Oh, look, we have barriers, but you see what I mean? It will do all that for you, which in city it's not really useful, but on the highway, on long drives, it becomes very handy. It even has the feature where it will maintain you in your lane. When you press this button there, it will read the lane markings, but make sure you always have to observe what's going on with the lane markings, because this is the Philippines. Sometimes the lane markings just disappear. Technically, what we're driving here is the base model of the HR-V. But let me tell you now, it does not feel base model to me, because audio system the same, climate control system the same, USB ports, charging port. What really changes is the upholstery and the instrument cluster. It doesn't have leather, doesn't have the almost 60/40 digital screen that they had there, meaning 60/40 split, because in the HR-V it has about 60% of it is a digital screen. And right now we're going over the rough stuff, but you can see the ride's really okay. But overall, I think Honda has something that can be very, very popular in our market in this trim. The important thing to keep in mind about this HR-V is that it's based more on the City and not on the Civic. The wheelbase of the City and this HR-V are actually much closer rather than the Honda Civic, because this is a smaller vehicle. Even when you compare it to some of the similar models like the Corolla Cross, this one seems significantly smaller than that one. We passed by one a few hundred meters back, and yeah, it does feel small. It does look small, and really does feel small inside. But that's not really an issue because it's nice and light and maneuverable. And I think, you know what, for everyday driving, it's just the right size. After spending some time with both of these vehicles, I can tell you that both drive really well. I like the power of this. This one, I like the balance. Yes, it doesn't have the punch, but I think that's okay. But I do have a favorite amongst these two. And no, it's not this one. It's actually this one. Now, while the HR-V Turbo is very nice and very punchy and very enjoyable on a mountain road, I can't get over the price. This one is at 1.598 million. For that kind of money, there are already a lot of options and much bigger options. This one at 1.25, I think is more like it. It's a great value proposition for a Honda crossover in that class. It has all the features you need, it drives really well, it looks really good, and it's really safe and really efficient. Wow, that's a lot of qualities in this car. But guys, chime in the comments below if you think my conclusions about these two vehicles are correct. This is Vince of AutoIndustriya.com.